Hey G Squad, welcome back to episode of Is It Worth It? So today's episode we got this corner here, and here's what these are some power banks from the Anker brand. So it's been a long time coming to wait for this power bank that we do have right here. I've been using both of these for a really long time now, for ever since they came out to now. So this one right here is a 12,000 milliamp one, and this one is 20,000. In terms of power that does provide for both of these, it is slightly different compared to the new one here. This one can provide you guys 65 watts and 65 watts for a total of 130 watts of maximum power on here when you guys use it. This one can give you guys 200 watts, which is 100 watts and 100 watts to charge two laptops at the same time if you guys want to. As I mentioned to you guys before, if you guys can see how the smaller one, it only provides guys 2 USB-C option, but for the 20,000 milliamp one, give you guys 2 USB-C option and 1 USB-A option. So you do have one more option on here for you guys to use. But this one definitely provides more power to recharge it faster and also recharge the device faster as well. So it does provide you guys 100 watts of power max at a single output when you guys use it. And this one's 65 watts. For both of them, they do give you guys a wireless charging option for you guys to use, which is for the wireless charging base, which I showed you guys before, but I'll show you guys that in a second as well. The side, they do have the button for you guys to press, and you definitely see the size difference for both of these here. And on the front, they do show you guys the display to show you guys how much power that's on here when you guys do use it. And also show you guys the battery information on here in terms of battery life. But when you guys do charge it, it will show you guys how much power that's being provided when you guys use it, and also show you guys like the battery percentage on here. As you can see, this one's at 51 and this is at 69. But when you guys compare to the big one right here, if you guys do put it side by side, you can definitely see the size difference on here from the front. If you guys do turn on the side, that is the size difference for each one of these when you guys do put it side by side, you can see. So definitely for the brand new one right here, which is 27,650 milliamp, is way bigger because it probably has more power. And in terms of what you guys do get on top, the 27,000 milliamp one give you guys the similar output on here with the 2 USB-C option and 1 USB. But in terms of power that's on here, it is more. This one can go to 250 watts. So if you guys do plug in a single output, it provides you guys up to 140 watts of power. If you guys do plug in 2 USB-C cable at the same time, depending on what you guys are using to charge and also the battery percentage when you guys use it, it will give you guys 140 watts for single output when you guys use it. And when you guys plug in 2, it also should give you guys very close to the 140 watts, which I'll show you in a second. But the cool thing about this one, it does provide you guys 140 watts for the input as well. Wherever this one is 100 watts and this is 65. But this one also gives you guys the wireless charging option if you guys want to use the wireless charging base, which is sold separately. But this one also gives you guys the display to show you guys like the battery percentage on here and how long it takes to recharge it. It's kind of hard for you guys to see on here, but it is on there. So right now it's at 28%. And the cool thing about this one is the fact that you do have the option to connect it via Bluetooth onto the app, which I'll show you guys what it actually looks like in a second. So that's pretty much everything for each one of these. One right now is to plug in the input for each one of them to show you guys how much power it does provide, starting with the small one and work our way up. Like I mentioned, for each one of these, they do have the display in the front to show you guys how much power it does provide when you guys use that. So for example, if you guys do plug in this one, if you guys give it a few seconds, it will show you guys how much power it does provide on here in the bottom and the time that it takes to recharge it and your current battery percentage. So right now it's charging at like 63.8 watts of power when you guys use that. And they mentioned how it'll probably take around 12 minutes to recharge it from this percent to 100. If you guys do plug in the output at the same time, let's see what happens. So this cable, I currently have it plugged into my MacBook Pro, and the percentage on here from MacBook Pro, let me see what's the percentage. So it looks like it's 10. So we do plug it in. Right now nothing's happening. Let me try to unplug it first and re-plug it back in. So it looks like when you guys do plug it in, it only allows you guys to plug in one at a time for the input or output. But if you guys do plug in both output at the same time, it will give you guys the option available. So for example, if I do unplug the input, give it a few seconds to kind of load up, and it should start charging. So right now it's providing around 62.5 watts, which is really close to the 65 watts that they mentioned on here. So let's say, for example, if you guys want to charge maybe like your other laptop at the same time, right here I do have my MacBook Air 13-inch. If you guys do plug in the cable, once you guys plug it in, it starts charging and it kind of resets. But it does show you guys how much power it does generate on here when you guys use both of them at the same time. So currently it's providing 63.5 watts for the MacBook Air. And for MacBook Pro, it's providing around 62.4. So very close to the 65 watts that they mentioned on here for both of them, you can see. So now let's do the same thing for the next one, which is the 200 watts one to show you guys how much power it does provide. Oh, but before we do, let me show you guys the wireless charging base if you guys are interested, which is right here. So all you need to do is just stick it onto the bottom part, which is magnetic. And it should start charging. You can see right there. One thing I do want to let you guys know is that when you guys use the wireless charging base, you guys cannot use the output at the same time. So keep that in mind. But you see how much power it does provide when you guys use it. So this one, it can go as high as 65 watts when you guys use it. But right here, it's showing you guys 61.5. So still a lot of power on here, but not as much as the other two that I'm about to show you guys in a second. So that's pretty much everything for this one. If you guys are interested in getting the charging base, feel free to check it out. It does give you guys 2 USB-C option and 1 USB. But the max power on here for everything together, either using one thing or all of them at the same time, is 100 watts. So keep that in mind. So that's this one here. The next one right here, it provides you guys slightly more power since it is 200 watts max and 100 watts max for a single output at a time. So if you guys do the same thing, plug in the cable first, give it a few seconds to kind of load up, and it should get very close to 100 watts when you guys do that. So right now it's around 94.9 watts. Now it's at 95. So very close to 100 watts when they do show you guys on here. But same thing for this one, they do show you guys how much time it takes to recharge it. Show you guys the battery percentage and how much power that's being generated when you guys do that. For this one, if you guys plug in the input at the same time while using the output, let's see what happens. You can see how it does work, and it kind of resets as well. Just give it a kind of few seconds to kind of load up. So currently it's providing 60 watts as the input option and 40 watts as the output option. So it does allow you guys to use that input and output at the same time. But if you guys were to only use as an input option or only as output option, it probably has more power. As I saw right here. If I do unplug the output option, give it a few seconds to kind of load up on here. It should give you guys around 94 or 95 watts, which is really close to 100 watts that they mentioned. But if you guys do unplug in and plug in output on here, you can see how much power it does provide when you guys do that. So right now charging at 94.8 watts, which is a lot of power you can see. And if you guys were to plug in another output at the same time, this is for the MacBook Air. Starts charging everything here. And I show you guys how much power it does provide for both of them at the same time when you guys do charge it. So for the MacBook Pro, it's charging at 94.5 watts, which is not affected. And then for MacBook Air, it's charging at 63.7 watts, so very close to 65 watts. If you guys were to charge two MacBook Pro at the same time, it will probably provide you guys 95 watts and 95 watts when you guys do that. And just to show you guys what I mean, if you guys were to use a wire charging base at the same time, it shouldn't work, but let's give it a try. MCL does give you guys an error. So they mentioned how you guys cannot do the wire charging at the same time, so you have to unplug it first. And when you guys do like that, when you guys do look at how much power that's being generated on here using the wireless charging option, that's a lot of power you can see. So currently it's charging around 93 watts. So even if you guys don't plug in cable directly, it still provides you guys up to 93 watts on here when you guys do that, which is a lot of power to recharge the wireless if you guys do think about it. So this one right here is a 20,000 milliamp if you guys are interested. And before I forget to mention on here, when you guys do press the button on the side, you do have the option to change the different setting. So the first one show you guys the watts and the battery percentage on here. The next one here show you guys the battery life and the battery information. Here we do have the option for you guys to adjust if you guys want to increase or lower the time for the auto screen off option. And here you do have the option to increase or lower the brightness level for the screen. So you do have the option to adjust all that for all three of these devices if you guys are interested. Now I'll show you guys the last and final one, which is the one that I've been waiting to compare for you guys. So this one right here is a 27,650 milliamp power bank if you guys are interested. This one, like I mentioned, the max is 250 for total, 140 for one of them. If you guys use both at the same time, this will probably be 140 and this will be something else. So I'll give it a try using the input option first. And obviously, in order for you guys to get the 140 watts on here, it depends on the wall charger or your charging station that you guys do have. If you guys don't have the correct wall charger or power station that can support up to 140 watts, they will not work. So keep that in mind. But if you guys do plug in cable on top, same display on here where I show you guys how long it takes to recharge it, show you guys the battery percentage, and show you guys how much power that's being generated when you guys use that. So this one is going as high as 1 in 36 and now the 139.5. You can see the number on there. And like I mentioned, the cool thing about this one is the fact that you do have the option to connect it on the app. That way you can see the stats on here as well. So right here I do have it all connected, and this is what the app looks like. So maybe the screen is too hard for you guys to see. You always have the option connected on the app to see it on here as well. It's actually really cool design, if you see. Show you guys the input, output, show you guys how much power that's being generated for each one of them for C1, C2, and the A option. And you do have the option to customize like your devices on here in the bottom, and then show you guys how long it takes to recharge it. And right here show you guys the battery percentage. So that's how much power that's being provided when you guys use the input option. If you guys use the input and the output at the same time, similar to how I show you guys for the other one, let's see what happens. So we do have plugged in for the input and output. When you guys do look at how much power that's being provided on here when you guys use both of them, the input option is at 139.5 and the output is 92 watts. So definitely provides a lot of power on here. But obviously will not provide as much when you guys do use it separately one at a time for the output option, because the only provide guys 92, but the input option still provide guys 139, which is a lot of power. So just to show you guys what I mean, if you guys were to unplug the input option, if you guys do look at new power on here, if you guys only use the output option, you can see how much higher it does go. It's at 111 right now. And currently the battery percentage on my laptop right now is around like, I think 5%, but let me actually double check. So right now it's at 4% and it's providing around 125 watts. It should go higher depending on your battery percentage on the actual laptop when you guys use it. And also if you guys are having stuff running in the background. So for example, if I were to run some stuff in the background, let me show you guys what will happen. I'll just run a few videos in the background. So I'm running some stuff in the background and see how the number went up even more to 136. So it definitely provides a lot of power on here when you guys use it. And if you guys were to plug in two USB-C options at the same time for the output option, give it a few seconds to kind of load up. So it's providing 131 for the MacBook Pro, and the MacBook Air is providing around 63.6 watts. So obviously if you guys were to plug in two laptops at the same time, it'll provide you guys even more power. But that's a lot of power on here already to recharge the MacBook Air and also the MacBook Pro. So the power on here is definitely slightly more powerful in terms of what you guys do get compared to the 20,000 mAh option, if you see. And same thing for this one, if you guys want to use the wire charging base option, it does work. But this one does not provide as much power since it does support 140 watts, but this one can only go up to 100 watts. So if you guys do give it a try, it pops on the icon on here to show you guys that you guys are using the charging base. And when you guys do look at how much power that's being generated on here, it's at 98.9 watts. So not as much as the cable directly, where it gives you guys up to 140 watts, if you see. But still a lot of power considering what you guys do get. So whether if you guys want to use one device or two device or three device in terms of the cable option on here, that is totally up to you guys. Obviously for the smallest one here, you guys only plug in two. But for this one right here and the 20,000 milliamp one, obviously you do have the option available. So that's a quick little comparison in terms of what you guys do get for each one of these in terms of how much power you guys do get. And also how fast it charges the device and also how fast it recharges the device when you guys plug in cable directly versus using the charging base. But that is pretty much everything that's on the product. Now that we show you guys what the product looks like and how it does work, now to answer the question of whether or not it's worth it or not and which one the better option to go for. So for all three of these devices, they are pretty worth it for what you guys do get. But obviously if you guys want my honest opinion in terms of which one's the better option to go for, if you guys would compare all three of these, it's pretty obvious that this is the best option to go for. But because this one is 27,650 milliamp on here, I don't think that is allowed on the airplane, so you might have to double check on that. Not all airline will allow you guys to bring it maybe. But the next best thing is probably for you guys to go for the 20,000 milliamp one that will allow you guys to bring it on the airplane for sure. I can guarantee that that will allow you guys to bring it on the airplane. But this one is a maybe because it might be over the limit for some airline. So you probably want to double check that first. But if you guys want to carry it around, maybe if you guys are doing work at your local Starbucks or your coffee shop, if you guys want to charge your devices when you guys are camping or something, or even at home, it's very nice to get the most powerful one here because it does give you guys the app control to show you guys on there as well. So it's an obvious choice. If you guys would rank each one of these, this is number one, this would be number two, and this would be number three in terms of how much power it does provide and also which one the better option to go for. But honestly, I can't really go wrong with either one of these depending on your need and how powerful you guys need it. Whether if you guys want to use it for your MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, iPhone, or anything else. That is totally up to you guys at the end of the day. But then obviously for those of you guys who don't want or don't need one or have one of these, obviously don't buy one and save them on something else you actually do need. So that's basically everything for this video itself. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button in the bottom. That will definitely help this video out, and it will definitely help with the algorithm as well to promote more videos for you guys so you guys can see more of the videos or similar videos as well. But as always, make sure to stay positive, be you, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of Is It Worth It? Peace.